food because you're boiling your food in oil or fat. And that's like one of the most dangerous things you can put into your system. But see, what you do to your food is going to do back to you. You know, that's just a law. You know, if you deep fry, if you microwave, if you don't treat your food gently and with care, and we dehydrate, okay, instead of cook or destroy. Okay, we gently deal with the food, and it'll gently deal with us. And we give it that love, and it's going to return that. But if we deep fry it, we microwave it. If you go out to eat, all the restaurants, that's what they do. Because it's speed, it's fast, it's convenient. But what's fast and convenient for them is not convenient for you. Okay, so it's really key to understand. I don't know what now with the raw food kitchen. One of the things that I mentioned is dehydrated, and that's like the raw food oven. Okay, so we use it in ways not just to dehydrate, but we heat things up. Yes, we can heat stuff up gently. It has a fan. It has like a little temperature thermocouple where it heats up. And it's like gently blowing warm air. And so things may, it may take 2 days. Definitely it's going to take, a couple of hours. But see, we have a whole concept of time. Because like when we make our bread, it's like a 3-4 day process. We have to soak for 12 hours. Now we have to sprout for another 12 to 24 hours. Actually 24 to 48 hours, depending on how much we want the sprout to go. Then we take the sprouted grain and then we blend it with our vegetables, and then we dehydrate it for another 12 hours. So if you add all that up, it's going to be at least 3 days minimum. But again, it's just all about really shifting your perspective and getting out of this convenience, this mode of everything has to be right now. And none of us have time. And I understand. When I got into this, I was doing everything on the cutting board. I didn't understand how to use quite yet a food processor. I had a blender and things, but it was training. And that's one of the things that's important, is that you have to be able to exercise. It's just like any exercise. Going into our kitchen, we have kitchen muscles, I like to talk about. So prepping, cleaning, and all those things, even shopping to a certain extent. Because you may not find, just like you go to a farm, you're not gonna find everything on one farm. You gotta go to a couple farms. So in the same likeness, we gotta go to a couple different stores. But again, this is all about making that investment. The biggest investment is going to be your time, not your money. It's going to be your time. And that's what a lot of us don't have, is that time. But we have to make time. It's worth it. Because see, the time we invest in making our food, that's going to extend our time on the planet. You got to look at it that way. You're going to get it back on the back end. It should be pain free. So that's ideal. We want to, I'm not, me personally, I love the concept of aging. I want to age gracefully, and I look forward to transitioning one day. Because I know my goal is to live a life where I have no regret. I've lived to my potential. I've experienced everything I needed to come here to do. I think that, to me, is truly heaven. When you come and say, you know what, I'm ready to go. Matter of fact, I'm going to choose, and not suicide, but I say, okay, I'm done. Just like we just sleep, again, it's just like we have in the daytime. Every day we go to sleep. That's symbolic of death. But waiting for us, eventually, is that final sleep. So I want to know. I'm like, look, I'm at peace, and I'm gonna. I'll see y'all on the next lifetime, right? Or on another planet, or how about something like that? So that's part of what motivates me, and hopefully it should motivate you. I think that's our birthright. I mean, all of us in here, I'm sure, have experienced, you know, a loved one, someone in our family who falls ill, and then, you know, that puts a strain on everybody. It puts a strain on us emotionally, at time. Who's gonna take care of it? You know, it's like, you know, when I'm 80 or when I'm 110, you know, I don't want nobody looking after me. I want to have nobody to bathe me, you know, to wipe me. You know, I want to be able to do all those things. So yeah. So getting back to our kitchen. Okay. We got our equipment. Because in your kitchen, you want to basically, people always tell me, can I use my oven? No, you can't use your oven. Just like if you're trying to use a microwave, can you use your oven to replace your microwave? You can, but it's not going to be as fast. Again, we gotta break. This is about breaking into new territory, and to, you know, really want to inspire you to invest in yourself. And part of that is investing in some of the tools that you have. We have this modern technology that we can have work for us. Okay, so we have our dehydrator. If you haven't seen, we have one over there at the booth. So, you know, we got the vegetables in there cooking. Okay, slowly, gently. All right. It's very important. Dehydrator. More important than our dehydrator is our food processor. So, if we get to our second dish, we're going to use this, and then we have a blender. So I have a Vitamix here. So last but not least, which I don't have up here, is if you like juicing, I'm sure all like juicing, then a juicer. So that would be the fourth piece of equipment that you would need and would round out. But if I had to rank them, I would say our food processor, this is the queen of the kitchen right here, because this does all the prepping, this does the sauces, this does the meats that we make, it makes the bread. I mean, this is like 80%. We use this 80% of the time. And then I would say second is the dehydrator. Because dehydrator, see, what was the first thing I said? What was the most important reason why you eat more raw food? Moisture. Yes, moisture. Now, dehydration goes against moisture. However, what we do is, from a culinary, artistic side or standpoint, is that we don't necessarily go, even on bread, we're not looking for, we take out all the moisture. So we have it in there for maybe an hour or so. You know, like you know, in here, y'all had the burger, everybody had the burger, or the crab cake. Again, these were partially dehydrated. So what it did is change the texture slightly. Just taking out a little bit of moisture. Because the moisture is more important than anything. It's more important than the vitamins, and the enzymes, and all that. It's about water at the end of the day. So, dehydrator is the second most important in terms of your culinary kitchen, and then your blender. The blender is important because the thing is like, with the style, the way that we make the juices at my shop is that we don't use a juicer. Because one thing I don't like about a juicer, you have to spend a lot of money on a juicer in order to produce juice that's not going to have juice in the pulp. Okay, if that pulp is not dry, then you're losing out. So what we do here, and I didn't bring any bags, but what we do is we take the juice out literally by hand. So we blend it and then we squeeze it through a cloth. Okay, so that's a great way to do that. and that's the way that we like to do it. So the blender in that way can replace your juicer. Now, in terms of when I go into some of the science of creating a recipe, one of the things that I like to do, or always talk about, or always address, is recipe creation. There's a formula that I follow. And anytime I'm making a recipe, it could be a dessert, it could be definitely a dressing or a sauce, or even like a nut pate. There's something elemental about each recipe that gives it its thing that you like. So essentially it comes down to what I consider the 5 taste sensations in the mouth. And I always turn it back on the audience and say, what are those 5 taste sensations that we recognize in our mouth? We got salt, sweet, sour, bitter, and hot. Very good. So let's start with salt and sweet, because that's usually what I hear either first or second. Or, because again, that's what we look for first or second. Is salt and sweet. And any processed food, packaged food, anything that you buy is already made, it always has salt and sweet. That's the combination that we're always looking for in our mouth. Salt and sweet. And like I said, salt and sweet is not bad. Everything is salt and sweet. But we need salt and sweet. However, we need it in the right form. But as a chef, you have to understand, like, salt and sweet. Those are the ones that really the pleasure side of food in terms of, once we put it in our mouth. Now, the other 3, those are what I call more of the medicinal sensations. Sour, essentially the things give you a sour vibration. It's more or less usually high in vitamin C. So like we have lemon and lime, even a vinegar. So we don't want to use white vinegar. We want to use apple cider vinegar. We want it to have that stuff on the bottom. That's the mother culture. That has some of the healing properties. We want to shake it up. We want to get that in our food if we're going to be using any vinegar. So the sour, again, is very, very important. But medicinal. And then, bitter, because these are the 2 that again are probably most medicinal. Bitter, especially all of our fresh herbs, our seeds tend to be more bitter. Nuts tend to be more sweet. So seeds, because a lot of people may have nut sensitivity, allergy, but almost no one is allergic to seeds. So seeds are generally more beneficial from a nutritional standpoint, but tend to be more bitter. They're not as sweet. And then, of course, my favorite is hot. The hot gets the circulation. And one of the things that I use is one of my biggest secrets is we have hot pepper, and we don't use. A lot of times we're just using it not to make it spicy, but just to give it what it has is flavor. See, the more sweet something is, really the less flavor it has. When we're tasting flavor, we're tasting bitter. We're tasting hot. Again, and then under hot is also pungent. Pungent is onion, garlic, scallions, leeks. That's flavor. Flavor is not sweet. Sweet accentuates flavor. Salt accentuates flavor. So it's about the bitter and the hot and the sour. Those are what, especially in the bitter, your fresh herbs. This is flat parsley. Any of the herbal family, but that also extends into other bitter foods. And then, of course, our hot hot is if you're not using any, like, this is like, I think this is Jamaican chocolate pepper. I get a lot of different hot varieties of pepper: ghost pepper, Scotch bonnet, habanero. Those are some of the scorpion. I think is the hottest pepper. And the thing is, it's like getting these peppers extremely hot, but you just use like a little piece, just a little slither. Because the heat, most of the heat is in the seeds. So just using a little piece is not only going to bring, it's going to raise the vibration of your whole recipe. And what it's doing is saying, well, can I just use cayenne pepper? You can use cayenne pepper, but the thing is that cayenne pepper cayenne pepper don't have the moisture, doesn't have the oil, it doesn't have the fiber. It's just flakes. Okay, it's just heat. See, this has energy. See, so when you eating food that has this in it, what happens is that you don't taste it right away. You start chewing, and then it like sneak up on you hot. You know, y'all know about that. So, and actually, we have some fire sauce. Usually my regular customers, I know, we didn't necessarily advertise that today. And for those that missed out on that, I apologize. But, if you want to get some food later, or we'll be here tomorrow, ask for the fire sauce. We'll give you a little fire sauce. So, it's primarily these peppers. What we do is, I think the fire sauce had jackfruit. Some of y'all may not be familiar. But again, jackfruit is a tropical fruit. It's delicious. So the peppers are that rounds out the 5. And so in just about every recipe, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's dessert, doesn't matter if it's definitely a sauce or a dressing, it could be a soup, it could be something like that. So today, what I want to demonstrate today, I do this recipe a lot because it's quick. We're only going to be using the blender, but we're going to do a chili. Okay, raw chili. There's no beans. It's just these few ingredients up here. I mean, I do like to, sometimes if I had fresh corn, they got corn over there? They got corn over there. I just noticed I got some produce. If they have some corn, I like to add corn to it, but and we have avocado, so I like the corn. So it's like a corn avocado chili. And so it's really simple, and people love it, and it's all good. So, but I can't talk and cut and do all these things, because so I'm going to ask for a volunteer. My man G. Yeah, why don't you come on up here? Yeah, this is one of my old buddies from DC. Actually, he's been in the kitchen with me before. Why don't you go ahead and wash your hands, and we got some gloves for you too. So, all right. So while we wait for him, let me talk about some of the things that I have. I have a course. This is my culinary course. So it goes into depth in terms of like the raw food science. It goes into the lecture on here is becoming and staying raw. So I talk about the 5 keys that is necessary. And I touched on some of those tonight. And then I go into the kitchen, and then each disc has a feature. So I got one dish just devoted to salads and dressings, sauces. Then another one just on liquids, juices, smoothies, soups. And then of course we get into entrees and desserts. So it's a complete course. And then of course I have my book. And I want to give you like just a reference. I started writing this book, I think in 2006. And how it came about was I had an idea to do like an urban retreat. Before that, I was working with my teacher, Reese Lathan. We were doing retreats, and we do this coconut water fast, and everybody would feel so great. And I had fasted before, but once I started fasting with coconut water, I found that I had more energy. I didn't feel weak. I didn't even really feel hungry. Fasting with coconut water as a base, because coconut water as a water is a whole food. So I go into that in the book. But when I created this urban retreat right in DC, where we was going to do yoga in the morning before people went to work. So you go to work, you come back, or we do yoga in the morning, I give you your juice for the day. You go to work, you do what you got to do. You come back, we have like a little meeting or something, and we basically repeated that every day for a week. So essentially, people wanted the program. So I started writing like how to do, what juices to drink, how to make the juices. So I have some recipes. Basically tells you like what grew out of that program. I just kind of evolved it. So it's more of the philosophy and the science behind it, but it also tells you the importance of really creating a foundation and using detoxification, to do it. And not just that, doing it as a lifestyle. Because the thing is, it's like, it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to fast for 40 days, or I'm going to do it. I just feel, you may be going through some transitional change, and food is just not, you just need to get away from it. And it's a very beautiful thing to do. But at the same time, what we do habitually will make the difference in the end. So this book is that. And just to even give you a preview, hopefully, if I come back next year, I am working on a recipe book. How many people are familiar with Delights in the Garden? Y'all know about that? Y'all remember that? Okay. Well, just real quick, Delights in the Garden was actually the first raw vegan restaurant in the country. It started by some brothers at Morehouse College back in the early 90s. One of the brothers who was writing the book, Hutchins, again, they were at Morehouse. They were featured on one of those, it wasn't PBS, CNN, okay, and that's how I heard. And then they actually have relocated to DC. So, and this happened to be the time I was at Howard University. It was right across the street. And so I had connected with them back then. This was 20 years ago now. The business died out. They left, went to law school and got advanced degrees. And actually, that's when my raw food game started to really catch fire and pick up. And now, just this past year, everything's come full circle because me and Imar are working on a book together. We're going to republish the Delights in the Garden using like all of the science and the skills and experience that I've learned. Because again, they were ahead of their time, and they weren't doing anything quite like this, but it was good for that time. So we're going to be working on the book by next year. This time we'll have the book. It'll be a nice color, full recipes, everything. So, but what we're gonna do before we get into the recipe, I just wanna do a special on our website. It's $65 for both of these. So today, if you get both of these today, $50 for both. So we're only doing that today and tomorrow. $50 for both. So if you want to get that. The other thing I mentioned, the juice cleanse. We actually do ship 3-day juice cleanse. And actually, Richmond is for those of you who live here that y'all want to get a 3-day juice cleanse, we can ship it out to you. It's overnight, and it's we can do the. Normally it's over $100, and we can do it for $99. That includes the shipping and everything. So if you want to do that, you want to sign up for that, we can get your information later. But definitely take a brochure, and it'll tell you all about answering all your questions. All right, ready for you. with some gloves. Okay, so the first thing with our recipe, so these are sun-dried tomatoes, and you know these are you can usually buy sun-dried tomato in oil, like in olive oil, or you can buy them dry. And either way, it'll work. Typically, when we have to use a sun-dried tomato in our food processor, usually better if they're in oil because they're easier to break down. But in our blender, it's not going to matter. So we're going to go ahead and empty out. We're going to go ahead and dump that in there. Okay, let's take out some. Take out about, just scoop out a little bit. Yeah. So we're going to do about a cup of sun-dried tomato.
I was blocking it inside.
These have lines. So that's about a cup. So that's good. And that's really going to, you know, the sun-dried tomato is really, it has a strong texture. So that's going to give us like that texture for our chili. All right, next what we're going to do is we're going to start to cut. So go ahead and peel this onion. Here's our knife. So we're going to put our onion. He's been out of practice, you see. All right, I might have to jump in, you see. We're going to cut the ends. Yeah. Kitchen muscles is weak. All right. All right. So then go ahead and cut the line. Like just. All right. So really, the chili is kind of like it's really I had to classify it would be like a soup, and that's what we want to create. We want to create something that is hearty, flavorful, but also something that can stand on its own in terms of it's going to have a lot of moisture. So it's basically going to really indulge all the senses. Here, when we do our pepper, I'll do that. Yeah. Just put it in there. So we're going to put our bell pepper. And one thing about our bell pepper, you know, we don't want to just pluck the middle out with your hands. So all that's food. And we don't want to, And then do the other side. Well, in terms of bell peppers, I don't use green bell peppers. I use either red, yellow, or orange, and that's because green is unripe. We want to use, these are fruits, okay? And those seeds are edible. We don't have to spend time getting those seeds out. So go ahead and just cut these into pieces. Yeah, both. Cut it 2 or 3 times. Big chunks. You know, we want our blender to do a lot of the work. We don't want to spend a lot of time at for the cupboard. We don't have to. There we go. And we get all right. So once we're gonna put our bell pepper in there. We have some heirloom tomatoes. Yes. Now, one of the things I mentioned, or I didn't mention in terms of like food in general, one of the things, like if you ever go to a market and really, you know, true food doesn't replicate itself. Just like we all look different, we all have, you know, you could be from the same parents, but you come out looking different. And one of the things is our food should represent that as well. It doesn't matter, you go to the organic market, everything looks the same color, same shape, everything. True food, like you see these coconuts, different shapes, that's really how our food should be. You know, like I look, I see the watermelons up there. You know, the watermelons should all be the same color, and the same size, and the same weight. We want our food to have some personality. Okay, and like our tomatoes, I like to get these like tomatoes that they all different colors and everything, because one of the things that I talked about is flavor. You know, and flavor is the opposite, or it has a inverse relationship with sugar. See, when things become more uniform, because man steps in and he wants to create this uniformity because of business, then what happens is that it increases the sugar in that food, and it doesn't taste as flavorful. You know, when we eat the watermelon that has the seeds and it's all big, and we taste it. Yeah, it tastes sweet, but really what we taste is the flavor. It's not the sweet, it's the flavor. And the flavor is really the opposite of the sugar. So we really want to get into, just have this understanding when we're shopping. And of course, that's really a plug for the farmers market. We really want to shop from the local farmers. That is way better than anything you get organic. That is organic. We got to redefine these terms, because we can get lost in the business side of organic. Okay. So go ahead and cut this onion up in big chunks. Okay. So we got our onion. So our bell pepper, that's obviously a sweet. Onion is a hot. We're gonna put some parsley. Now, usually in this recipe, I like to use cilantro. That's so good. But parsley works with this as well.
This tastes really, really good.
And we just push it down in there, create some more space. Push it pretty hard. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do our parsley. Yeah. So take a little bit, and just cut it in like 1 inch, 1.5 inches, 2 inch. Just put it.
Yeah. I like the watermelon ice with the orange.
The whole thing. Yeah. See, that's the thing. We don't want to skim. This is food. Okay, and not that we're going to eat a parsley salad, but we want to be generous. We want to really get into using lots of this stuff. We want to be eating lots of this stuff. This stuff is loaded with iron, and vitamin K, and calcium, all the things that everyone is deficient in. And the stems too. We don't throw it. That's food. That has moisture. That has energy. We want to put all that in there. So go ahead and stuff it in there. Our crab cake and our burger. It's the same approach. It may be almond, and you bite into just as much parsley as you are almond. Because again, we understand the science of creating that balance. So when we balance it nutritionally, we're also balancing the flavor. So you see how now understanding some of the basic science really allows you to be a better artist. Because if you understand this thing, nuts being acid, herbs being alkaline, you want to eat balance. You definitely don't want to be too acidic. And you necessarily don't want to be too alkaline either. Yes, it may be better to be alkaline than be acidic, because acidic, you may be jumpy or jittery or angry or hostile. And then, but you know, I mean, some of us know people that are in the clouds. You don't necessarily be in the clouds either. You know, so you want to ground, you know, you want to have balance. So, so yeah, we definitely use our parsley. So we're gonna empty our tomato. Go ahead, just about half. So again, our tomatoes, and then, you know, these tomatoes you can eat. You know, these are fruits. And you know, tomato, you should be able to eat it, and it tastes like you know, I've already had the experience where you eat the tomato, you're like, wow, that is delicious. You know, because again, the tomato, just to cover it, you know, because we got our bitter parsley, we got our hot. All right, so now it's time to add some moisture. So we're gonna
with green tea or black? Which one, orange tea? The green tea. Not regular.
We'll take this out. Stop right here.
Probably about a cup. Oh, go ahead. I usually measure with my eyes. Go ahead. Go ahead, just start pouring. Okay, that's good. Now when you're making the soup, maybe a little more. Okay. So typically with a soup, it's really a combination of oil and water. But typically, so it's very similar to a dressing. A dressing is probably going to be more oily than it is water. A soup is going to have more water than oil. And they're really very close in terms of a soup. They're gonna have good water, but they're very close in terms of what goes into it. So next, speaking of that, we need our water. Now, one of the things Chef Kepper is all about is the coconut. Y'all know that, you see the picture, the coconut. So any recipe, and that's again another secret, any recipe that calls for water, always using coconut water. It could be salad dressing, it could be definitely something like this. One of the things that coconut water does, if you're using coconut water, even if you're using, like you can have real coconut, or if you can't get the coconut, you can settle for something like this, which is fine. So you go ahead and empty that in there. Okay, yeah, I want to really put me to work. So go ahead and empty the whole thing. So we'll use that, and let's see, we may need some more. Okay, so for demonstration, I'll put me on the spot. I don't suggest you try it like this at home. I've literally I've been cutting these things for years, thousands of coconuts. So if you ever come to a festival, there's some festivals where you're chopping all day, but typically, let's see. Okay, coconut 101. All right, so your coconut. Now this is like, again, going back to nature. All right, we understand our first food, or our first food should be, is mama's breast. All right, that's our first, other than air. We don't even need to drink water. We can be on the breast. And for all of you women who want to, or have children, basically, well, around the world, most children are breastfeeding 5-6 years of life. And they slowly wean onto, or they slowly wean off of it. And the thing is like, really, this is Mother Nature's breast. You see the shape, you see it's like the nipple, and really, what right here is a soft spot. So that is one relatively easy way to get into the coconut, is to sort of chop it, or you could even take a drill and drill it right down in that center. That's the soft spot right there. So that's really an easy way to sort of get into it. Now, if it's a harder coconut, this coconut probably has a little bit of meat. It has a little because most people say, well, that doesn't look like coconut. What about that brown hairy thing? This is the young coconut. So this is what will transform into the mature brown coconut that we may be more accustomed to. So the young coconut we want to have for the water. The mature coconut is what you want for the meat. So yes, it may have some water in there, but it's not necessarily as good as the water that's in here. Okay, so we want to really get at it with this water. So that's one way to open your coconut. Now, if you want to get at the meat, then you may have to use a cleaver, throw it on the ground. You want to crack it open. There's different ways to do it. Now, the way I do it is a technique that I learned while I was in Brazil. You know, in Brazil, there's probably 1 million coconut trees in Brazil, and using this technique, I guess it's something for demonstration purpose. You can see how I do it, and essentially, it's a pretty easy way if you have a good handle on a machete. So usually what I do, I like to cut a bottom. So like, you can sit it on the table. So I'm gonna do that first. And then I turn it around. See, because what happens is the coconut hangs on the tree. So hold that up for me. So really, the shell is lower, it's closer to here. So that's why you turn it around. Most people, you see them cutting with a machete. They'll cut it on this side because the shell is closer to the skin because it hangs. But again, that soft spot, I don't know if y'all can really see, but you can see how it changes color a little bit in the middle. That's where that soft spot is. So if you have a machete, you want to just take a drill or screwdriver, you go right through there. But I usually take that in and cut a bottom, because I sell coconuts a lot, and people always like to put it down and they roll and the water goes everywhere. So I'm gonna cut the.
You know her?
I'm gonna cut it open.
You know Mamania? She's my teacher.
Thank you. All right, so I still got my hand. I can dump that in there. So again, looking at this coconut, you really should go from a mother's breast to Mother Nature's breast. And that can sustain us for the rest of our life, really. So. Alright, we're coming almost to the conclusion of our dish here. We're going to add some, last but not least is yes. So these peppers have been frozen, so they're not as hot. Now, if these were fresh, you would just, again, cut like a little sliver. But you would just cut it in half right down the middle. But typically with the season, you buy peppers in the late summer. That's typically when they're in season. Because again, yeah, go ahead and put that. Because what happens is that the pepper needs to sleep. What's happening? Yeah, okay, right. Alright, so very critical, especially for anything that's with a tomato base. We want to bring that fire and balance the tomato. But I always ask this question, do we have everything represented? All the taste sensations? For those of y'all been paying attention. Okay, so we got our hot is our onion and our pepper. Got our bitter, parsley. Got the sweet. But where's our sweet pepper? And where else is sweet coming from? We got coconut water and the tomato. And what about the salt and the sour? Right, good. Good, very good. Sun-dried tomatoes are usually salted. Okay, sometimes you could buy them unsalted, but typically I never have to add any additional salt to this dish. And what about the sour? Again, our tomato. Tomatoes, good tomatoes, are going to have sweet and salt. I mean, sweet and sour. Okay, and actually salt too. Tomatoes have natural sodium. So last but not least, we're going to add some spice. So we have our we have a ground cumin powder, and we have a chili powder. So we'll add a good amount. We're going to add like a tablespoon of each. Okay, I think we're ready. Okay, now one of the things that's real important for this dish is this Vitamix. Before we turn it on or anything, this Vitamix has got a strong motor, and if we let it run long enough, everything is going to look like one thing. For chili, we want different. We still want to see the onion. We want to see the parsley. We want to see all the different colors represented. So we basically just have to let this run for not even 10 seconds even. Basically, for those of you who are familiar with using the Vitamix, what will happen is that it will blend and it will work really hard, and it'll hit a groove, and the sound will change. So once we hear that sound, we shut it off. So I like to put it on high. Now, quick note about the Vitamix. Let me turn it around. For those of you that are in the market for the Vitamix, you don't be swayed or misled about all the different options. You really just pay what your money is going towards is the motor or the engine. You don't need these little things in the middle with the little knobs or timers or little things. You need on and off and high and low. That's it. You know, all that other stuff, when you're buying those other fancier ones, it's the same engine, same motor, but now you're paying $50, $100 more, so you can just gradually turn it up to high. But you're going to have to turn it up to high. You know, you don't blend anything at half speed. You either blend it on low or you blend it on high. Okay? So you save yourself some money because this is going to be pretty pricey. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start it on high, and then like you listen. Actually, I'm going to put the mic right next to it, but you listen, and once you hear it wind up, then that's when we turn it on. So you heard it winding up. We didn't even let it get there because I wanted everything to be represented. And we put a good amount of coconut water in there, probably more than what I normally would put, which is okay. Because, you know, coconut water, and that's one thing about the coconut water versus adding regular water. If we add regular water, it's going to water it down. If we add coconut water, it's going to enhance it. Okay, so that's true for especially any salad dressing, and definitely any soup. So anytime you're making a soup, salad dressing, anything that requires a lot of water, coconut water. All right, so we're gonna put some scallions. We're gonna chop those up, put those in there. Take those off. No, this is the recipe live and direct. Cut them smaller. Yeah, that's one. Scoop that up, throw that in there. Again, cut them a little smaller, Again, and then our scallions are considered hot, and it just gives us a little more texture. It's a different texture, varying texture. And then while he's doing, well, once we finish that, put some avocado in there. Actually, our pepper is still almost whole. So what we're doing here, take the stem off the top. So what we're going to do is just put it back in the blender. And we'll just add some tomatoes. So just go ahead. So let's do all the tomatoes. Yeah, take that grade off the and then we'll just So again, that pretty much does it. We had some fresh corn, I'd like to add that, and that's our recipe right there. We didn't add any additional salt. If you want to just do like a touch, that would be okay. And we got our fire in there, so it's got some energy. So that's essentially our recipe. So what we'll do is, I'm going to try this. We'll figure out that, well, maybe what we'll do is, what we'll do is just, we'll create some sample cups at our booth, and then we'll pass them all out until we finish the chili. All right, that's cool. All right. So yeah, if there's any questions, I can answer any questions now. Anybody? You good? Yes. Check.
Did you say you didn't eat beans?
Unless I can sprout them. Because again, my thing is that if I'm not able to, if I can't just add water to it, and I can chew it and digest it, and it tastes good, then I shouldn't eat it.
Because I do the lentil beans and the flaxseed together, make a powder, and put it in my smoothie and drink it.
Well, again, in terms of the lentil, at least from my experience, I've not really. I'm somewhat certain if you can sprout lentil. I don't know. I mean, I've seen certain things that look like lentils that sprouted, so I'm going to assume that you can sprout. But sprouting it, again, is just much better because in terms of the starch in the bean, that's going to be difficult to process and digest. But if we sprout it, now that starch turns into a simple sugar. And now we can break it down easily. It has moisture, it has life. Where because really a bean is really like a seed, and if we ate too much seeds, that could be constipating. That could glue us up. And the thing is like if it doesn't have like some sort of sweet taste to it, or something that like for example, if I just eat an almond or a walnut, there's something that tastes that goes with my taste buds. But if I'm eating a bean, first of all, it's going to be like really hard or difficult. But even if it's fresh, the thing is like it's going to taste more like paste because of the starch. So what I want to do is be able to transform that starch into a simple sugar, just for my whole body's benefit. And then the other thing too is like people like lentil soup and things like that. Again, it goes back to what I said about anytime you're eating starch, you're always going to add oil to it. And the oil is really what you want because you're going to need something to slow down or to balance that sugar. So that's really the key thing is that you understand like people like the soup because they like the combination. First they boil it so that it's soft and you can chew it, but then that's not enough. You're going to add some oil or some fat to it. And that's going to basically allow it to be something desirable to the palate. Good question. Anybody else? All right. Yes.
I heard a lot of people say that you're not supposed to really eat, raw greens and raw, cauliflower, the things that make cruciferous vegetables. How do you have you had no problems eating? Because I know in the past when I used to eat it, it would make me gassy. Now it's a little different because I'm eating a lot more cleaner. So is it just a matter of just how clean you've been eating, or?
Yeah, that's part of it. That's definitely a part of it. In terms, everyone heard a question. Like, in terms of like vegetables, especially cruciferous vegetables, things like cabbage and some of the heavier grains, because we eat lots of kale, collards, spinach, all raw. and we don't have to cook them. We don't have to cook them down. Part of it is our digestive fire. We want to build that up. So the way to build that up is to still do the green, but do green juice. If you do more green juices, that will build up the acids. Because again, we're eating too much food that has been devitalized. And what happens is that we lose our digestive fire. You know, people say, oh, I have to cook your vegetables, only because our bodies are just, you know, we're abusing our temple over time. So the thing is that we lose a lot of our energy. And so it becomes challenging. But we can always take it in a juice form. And then the thing is, like, yeah, it may be something you may need to acclimate your body to over time. You know, just like anything. We have to sort of transition, but then there may be some, you know, there may be some pains along the way, some discomfort. And the thing is, just like with fasting, it's the same sort of thinking, is that we have to sort of take 2 steps back before we take 3 steps forward. You know, it's probably true with most things in life, is that we have to sometimes take a step back in order to go forward. So with greens, but there is also some truth in terms of, definitely, you know, like I say beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we are fruitarian, meaning that fruit is our food. That's what it's designed for us. Like, we reach up, we can climb the tree, or we should be able to climb the tree, pick the fruit. The way our bodies are designed is fruit. But however, in every fruitarian species on the globe, green leaves are a big part of the diet. Green leaves. So green leaves definitely, you know, when we look at what the green leaf is made of nutritionally, you know, in terms of the alkalinity, in terms of the minerals, because the fruits are going to be more vitamin dominant, but our greens are going to balance the fruits because they're going to be more mineral dominant. So we get our minerals from our greens, our vitamins from our fruits, and that forms a nice balance. Okay, and then we round it out with nuts, seeds, fats, good fats. But again, it's a process. It definitely is a process. A lot of the food, like I was talking about, you know, those of you familiar with Dr. Sabi, and a lot of things he talks about, I mean, essentially from a raw food perspective, you know, your choices will be very limited. My thing is that, you know, especially with the cruciferous vegetables, it's like it's better to eat. Again, this food has water, it has energy, it has enzymes. Yes, it may be a hybrid, but, you know, it's all about balance. And the thing is like, you know, I mean, we live in a hybrid world, and there's some concessions you have to make. So really, that's more of a personal approach for those of you who may have that question, in terms of, you know, understanding like what you're going to eat and what you're not going to eat. So, anything else? All right, thank you.
All right. Y'all give it up for Brother Kefla Anu.